Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. Lingering questions over City of Launceston Mayor Danny Gibson's working with vulnerable people registration have forced him to resign only 7 months into the top job. He says the past few weeks have been too much and the issue has become a distraction.
Putting his mental health first, effective tomorrow, Danny Gibson will step down as Mayor of Launceston, saying he's been the target of speculation, rumour and vile attacks over media reports on the status of his working with vulnerable people registration. The City of Launceston issuing its own statement, saying Councillor Gibson told the council his position as Mayor was no longer tenable, but will continue as a councillor. The Electoral Commission waiting for formal confirmation from the council.
If there's only a mayor vacancy, not a councillor, only a current councillor can fill that mayoral vacancy.
Tim Walker, among the first to confirm he'll run for mayor once the by-election is announced.
I will run again, yeah, I have no qualms about that.
Acknowledging Councillor Gibson's contribution.
Look, I'd like to wish Danny Gibson well. He will still be on council. He'll still play an important part in the life of this city.
Fellow councillors Alan Harris and George Raze will consider their options before announcing if they will run. Deputy Mayor Matthew Garwood will step in as acting mayor for the time being until a new election has been called. The Justice Department could not comment on the status of Councillor Gibson's registration. Local Government Minister Nick Street has thanked the outgoing mayor for his service. Mark Zita, 7 Tasmania News.
Emboldened by government backbencher resignations and public support, the Greens will launch a challenge to strike stadium money out of the budget. But the move is constitutionally murky as they continue their call for clarity on the AFL deal.
With a new precariously placed parliament, a budget bombshell is brewing.
We will be moving in our private members' time when we get back into parliament next week to knock the stadium off.
Moving to see the AFL deal tabled and later to strike out any stadium funding in next week's budget.
We're getting more advice on it, but a budget bill is in some ways no different from any other piece of legislation.
Some experts disagree. Richard Herr says there are constitutional limitations on splitting the budget.
Economic credentials have never been a strong point for the Greens.
Backtracking on her earlier budget guarantee, Lara Alexander wants full disclosure of any Mac Point money.
We need to understand what is it for, what that money is for. We need to understand that budget line. We need to see what's behind it, what are the details, and that's significant for me.
And I think the deal is dodgy for Tasmanians and it's not going to result in the best outcome from Tasmania.
Labor won't support it, despite maintaining their opposition to the build.
If we can stop taxpayer funds being spent on something that's clearly the wrong priority, we will. But we're not going to be reckless.
The Premier says the state isn't on the hook for any kind of termination payout if the stadium is scrapped and licence revoked. Despite the public and political blowback over the last few days, he's sticking by his stadium stance.
I recognise this is a challenge, it's an unpopular sell, but I'm doing it for the right reasons for Tasmania.
Last week's political emergency, unlikely to be the last time he's tested. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
South Hobart cafe owners have described the latest racist attack on their business as heartbreaking and ignorant. The Macquarie food store was vandalised for the second time this year as Crime Stoppers push for more CCTV uptake to enhance protection.
A bigoted slur plastered on a place Mike Dutta and his family have worked so hard for.
I was quite disturbed to see that there are some people who can be so nasty and can be so racist. There is no need for it.
He runs the Macquarie food store alongside his daughter and fellow Hobart councillor Zelinda Sherlock. But the pair have been the target of multiple attacks.
It was something that has hurt not just our family but the wider migrant community who live, work, study, play and contribute to this beautiful state, and to the broader community who are against racism as well.
The timing of the vandalism on Saturday is even more hurtful as the pair prepare to step away from the business due to rising operation costs.
Well, it's like a death experience, having been here for 14 years. So emotionally, you're quite disturbed and charged, and these things don't help.
The cafe unfortunately doesn't have CCTV in operation, so capturing the offender wasn't possible. But police remain confident they can hunt down the person responsible.
It's a very useful tool for law enforcement to be able to lead them to identifying anybody that may be responsible for damage or theft in your business.
Investigations are continuing, with Tasmania Police saying unlawful activity targeting others motivated by hate is not acceptable. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
It's feared we're heading towards a worse road safety result this year than last, as serious crash statistics surge. The RACT using National Road Safety Week to launch its new campaign, highlighting the shocking scale of lives lost.
51 white ribbons for the 51 people killed on Tasmanian roads last year. The 268 yellow for those seriously harmed. A chilling display for Stuart McPherson, who suffered a brain injury after crashing his motorbike 18 years ago.
I've had to relearn how to do my life, everything again, speaking, walking.
And yet Stuart is one of the lucky ones. 6,060 people have died on our streets in the century the RACT has been running.
We've got behind me an installation mirrored so that people can see themselves in this terrible statistic, because it's not just a number on a page. It is communities that are torn apart, it is lives that are ended. It is empty places at the dinner table.
But it won't be a smooth road to change, with serious crashes up by 11% compared to this time last year, and more than 30,000 speeding infringements issued between September and April.
If we keep going the way we're going, this will be even a worse year than 2022.
Stakeholders today signing the Road Safety Advisory Council's pledge to drive so others survive, and urging all motorists to do the same online. Police issuing a strong warning to Tasmanians who regard themselves above the law.
We'll be out there policing the roads 24/7, and we're going to do our damnedest to reduce the incidence of crashes and take the irresponsible people off the road.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Green hydrogen-powered trucks will soon become reality on our roads. 2 companies signing a joint cooperation agreement to promote the use of renewable energy in the heavy transport sector.
It's a partnership to reduce carbon emissions in Tasmania.
I think the environment's quite right. The technology's there now to make this happen. 10 years ago, the technology wasn't there.
7R Logistics, the first in the state to announce a switch to hydrogen-powered trucks. They're teaming up with Countrywide Hydrogen, who will provide 3 refuelling sites.
This will be a first for Australia, having homegrown hydrogen, not relying on imported diesel.
According to Countrywide, diesel road transport accounts for 20% of emissions in the States. Unlike fully electric battery cell trucks, hydrogen provides similar or better performance to diesel in range, refuelling time and cost of operation.
We don't have much, diesel reserves, fuel reserves in Australia, whereas we can home grow all our own energy for our own fleet here in Australia.
The 3 refuelling stations will be located in Hobart, Burnie and here at Launceston airports, with an estimated launch date by the end of 2024.
That gives us 3 locations in the state where hydrogen will be available through our own refuelling network to ensure that trucks like Tim's trucks have got access to hydrogen to operate throughout the state.
7R is hoping to cut its emissions by 3,000 tonnes a year through the switch. Mark Zita, 7 Tasmania News.
A new $2.6 million ambulance station has opened in Bridgewater. There's space for 4 vehicles and upgraded facilities for the 12 staff who had previously been working out of a Tasmania Fire Service building.
Last year we know that Bridgewater as a station provided over 2,700 responses.
The opportunity to move into a state-of-the-art and purpose-built ambulance station right here in Bridgewater is a huge benefit to us.
It's one of 6 new rural and regional facilities servicing booming or isolated communities. It's been a mystery dating back to when Gough Whitlam was Prime Minister and the US ended its involvement in the Vietnam War. The sinking of the Blythe Star off Tasmania's coast sparked the biggest maritime search in Australian history. 3 men never returned home. Reporter Madeline Kerr's grandfather was one of the survivors. She has this special report on the rediscovery of the ship, solving a 50-year riddle.
In the depths of the Southern Ocean lies a maritime mystery. For half a century, the location of the Blythe Star was unknown, until now.
There's one part of the footage in which you can actually make out the name Star on the bow of the ship, and I think being able to see that is a really, really special thing, special moment.
The CSIRO's research vessel, the Investigator, stumbled upon the wreckage while surveying an underwater landslide on the southwest coast of Tasmania. After multiple fishermen reported nets continuously getting caught, they investigated a little deeper.
There was kind of an idea that there was going to be a shipwreck in the general region. We just didn't know where and we didn't know what.
As the camera continued its underwater mission, there was no mistaking the wreck for anything else. The ordeal stems from its final voyage in October 1973. Leaving Hobart for King Island with a top-heavy load of fertiliser and beer, she soon started to take on water. The 10-man crew scrambled onto a life raft, drifting along the frigid waters for 9 long days, before finally reaching land at the desolate Deep Glen Bay. Mick Dolman was just a teenager at the time. He's the only one still alive to see the freighter rediscovered.
The last time I seen that ship, I was getting into a life raft and getting as far away from it as I could. And seeing it again, it's strange feelings. It sort of brings to a conclusion the whole saga, I suppose, that the cost of the loss of life.
It's been a bit of a mystery for a while now as to where the location of the Blythe Star is. So I guess it just means for us that we've been able to kind of provide a bit of closure to families.
Families like mine. My grandfather was Mal McCarroll, one of the 7 survivors. His daughters, my mum and my auntie, say the discovery of the Blythe Star brings them a bittersweet sense of comfort.
There's some families out there that didn't get to hug their dads or their husbands. We were lucky. We got to go to the hospital and see our dad. There were some people there that didn't get anything.
It's just a nice feeling now to know where it is.
But I think the real standout for your grandfather, in my estimation, was when him and I, after about 3 or 4 days at Deep Glen Bay, Malcolm come and see me and said, "You and me, we got to get out of here. All these blokes are going to die if we don't get help."
Even after all these years, just talking about the final journey is difficult because 3 men never came home. Second Engineer John Sloan, Chief Engineer John Eagles, and Chief Officer Kenneth Jones. But their deaths weren't in vain. The Blythe Star disaster resulted in sweeping changes to maritime safety.
I couldn't give you a record of how many lives have been saved, but I'll tell you, they are enormous changes.
A plaque to mark the 50th anniversary of the voyage will be unveiled in October, anchoring the Blythe Star into Tasmanian maritime history forever. Madeline Kerr, 7 Tasmania News.
Some of our quiet achievers are being honoured as part of National Volunteer Week, from offering a friendly face to hospital patients to protecting our nearest and dearest during natural disasters. Tasmania is celebrating having one of the country's best volunteering rates.
For Dan Watson, lending a helping hand during tough times is a family business.
I was brought up in a volunteering family. My father and a few of his mates started the local SES unit when I was just a wee tacker.
He's a key member of Delorain's Fire Brigade. And as part of Meander Valley's SES crew, Dan was on the ground during last year's devastating floods.
It's nice to know that when something like the floods or a car crash or a fire or something like that happens, then I can jump in and actually help out people on a day that they're not really having much fun with.
Those who give their time freely are being celebrated this week. 160 of the city's volunteers turning out for a special morning tea in Launceston.
It's better than sitting at home thinking, what can I do today? And the satisfaction from being needed is pretty heavy.
Contributing at Launceston General Hospital is a way for some to give back. After facing cancer herself, Chrysanta wants to pay it forward.
When I retired, I decided to continue my helping people.
For others, it's a way to stay connected and make new friends.
We have so much fun. We probably get into trouble for being a bit loud and laughing too much, but it's good fun, yeah.
Annie Green, 7 Tasmania News.
A popular Hobart CBD thoroughfare will be more than just a spot to pass through this week, with local talent performing live from 12 to 2 each day in Wellington Court. The festivities are a nod to Main Streets of Australia Week, celebrating all that town centres provide to the community.
I don't want this to be the area everyone goes, oh, I'm not so sure about this. I want this area to be people want to go, oh, you know, I want to meet you at Wellington Court. That's what I want you to do.
A circus act, roving big band and DJs will also take to the stage on Friday, with local businesses staying open later to serve the crowd. Tasmanians have gathered at the International Wall of Friendship to mark Europe Day. This ceremony was dedicated to Ukraine, attendees sharing a minute's silence for those whose lives have been forever changed by the conflict.
We are very stressed, of course, because so many of us, if not all, have family and friends, many of them fighting on the front line.
Tasmania's Ukrainian community says the public can continue to show its support by donating to humanitarian aid.
And the Australian men and women's cricket team will suit up in Tasmania for the upcoming summer season. 2 games of T20 cricket will be played at Launceston Arena on January 30 and February 9 as part of the international fixture. It marks the return of the national squad to the Apple Isle for the first time since 2016.
Having international cricket, obviously, and allowing the young kids, both girls and boys, to go along and watch their idols and to watch cricket at the highest level is always going to be a positive.
Sadly, no test matches will be played locally, but Cricket Tasmania remains confident in ensuring premium content is coming to the state. The undefeated Devonport Strikers are riding a high after taking out a top-of-the-table clash in the NPL with the Glenorchy Knights over the weekend. The Strikers down the Knights 2-0 in front of a home crowd, but it wasn't without a fight.
Yeah, they came out pretty strong in the first half and we got a goal, obviously, that boosted us going into the second half. But the whole squad was just, really up and about for the game that day.
Meanwhile, in the WSL, South Hobart's defensive structure proved strong for the Strikers women's team, taking out the win 3-1. The University of Tasmania's men's team have lost their elimination finals match against the University of Sydney in the Uni Basketball League, 91 points to 85. The women's will face Victoria University in their elimination final tomorrow afternoon.
Good evening. Hobart 19 degrees today. Launceston and Burnie registered 18 and Devonport 17. It might not have felt this way, but most temperatures were above average today. Friendly Beaches, Ouse and Flinders Island 19. King Island, St Helens and Grove 18. Lowhead 17. Strawn 16 degrees. A few showers did push from the west to the north today as cloud gradually increased right around the state. A large area of cloud is there over southern Queensland, with thunderstorms reported with the cloud cover over the South Australian Northern Territory border. Tomorrow, a cold front crosses the state ahead of a large area of high pressure. A small low is off the Queensland coast. The northwest winds will turn cooler southwesterly tomorrow at 20 to 30 knots, swells picking up to 5.5 metres in western and southern waters. A strong wind warning has been issued for all Tasmanian coastal waters, and a bushwalkers alert for the Western and Central Plateau districts as snow is expected to 700 metres. Hobart, a top of 12 and showery tomorrow. 12 for Adventure Bay, Tarraleah, 1 overnight, a top of 8 and a few showers thrown into the mix. An early shower for Launceston, 7 to 14 the temperature range. Same for Devonport, early shower as well for Bridgewater and 14 degrees. Burnie 13, an early shower. Showers for Strawn 12 and 13 for Marrawar. St Helens tomorrow a top of 15 degrees with a morning shower. The chance of a shower or two for Swansea, and 15 the top for Whitemark on Flinders. On Wednesday, a pretty cold start along with a frost or two. A fine day to follow. A few showers extending from the west on Thursday, more focused over Bass Strait and southern parts. And on Friday, a shower over the west, south and Bass Strait Islands. A sunny 23 in Perth tomorrow. Showers on the way for Adelaide, Melbourne and Sydney. Rain and 22 degrees tomorrow in Brisbane. Bit of cloud around. Hobart, mostly cloudy in 14, partly cloudy in Launceston and partly cloudy in Devonport, all on 14 degrees. A couple of cold days ahead, Kim. In fact, the temperatures are going to plummet faster than my standings on the AFL footy tipping ladder.
Stop tipping those swans, Murph, that's why. That is all your news for now. We'll have updates later. Thanks for joining us tonight. Good night.